Hey, it's Ryan with this week's Mille Lacs Fishing Report. We are fast approaching Memorial Day weekend, and we have had a dramatic swing in temperature over the past few days. So first things first, we'll get to that temperature change and talk about the conditions out here. Just a few days ago on opening weekend, we had some unseasonably warm temperatures. Highs were approaching the 90s. We had bright sunny skies and very little wind, a couple of those days kind of earlier in the week here. But that changed a lot just a few days ago, and we swung from those highs close to the 90s all the way down to lows in the 30s over the last couple of days. And that has changed things quite a bit, not only for the smallmouth, but for the walleyes as well. So I'll start off with the walleye bite, and one of the first things I've noticed is we've done considerably better on walleyes the last few days. And I don't necessarily know if the bite was as tough as people were making it out to be on opener. But what I think may have been going on is the conditions were just not very conducive to catching walleyes. Last weekend we had hot weather, bright sun, no wind, and a lot of people out on the lake. And I just think that combination of tougher walleye fishing conditions mixed with all the pressure that was on them just made things a lot more difficult. I know some guys that were out fishing at night, they were trolling over the opener, and they did pretty darn well. I also talked to some other people who had some spotty, real good success on opener in the days after. But what I did definitely notice is once we had the cool down just a couple days ago and we started to have some more wind on the lake and some overcast conditions, instead of the bite getting tougher with the cold front, the walleye bite for me got a lot better. We started running into them with bobbers and leeches, caught some fish on jigs and minnows, caught some fish on the paddle tail swim baits. There's just a variety of different techniques that we're catching them. Nearly all the fish that we've caught in my boat have been up shallow in, I would say, 8 to 12, 8 to 14 feet of water. But I know of people doing well all the way out to 18 feet of water. So if you're going out for walleyes, the best range that I've found has been in that 8 to 18 foot of water range. What I would recommend doing is by far the best technique for us has been the bobber and a leech. We've been using the live sonar, we've been cruising the shallows, looking for pods of fish and throwing our baits right up on top of them. That's been producing for us not just this season, but the last couple seasons as well. If you want to do something different, you can cast the little paddle tail swim baits, or you can throw a jig and a shiner. Those are also catching walleyes right now. They're not working as well as they did last year, but they're still producing some fish. Lastly is the Lindy rig bite. A lot of people like to go up to the sand early on in the season. They like to drag a Lindy rig and a shiner. One of the big things with going up to the sand is you just got to use your electronics. It's kind of a day-to-day thing, even an hour-to-hour thing with where you'll find the fish on the sand. Sometimes they'll be up shallower. If you have some wind and some overcast skies like I have behind me today, you might find those fish up in 12 feet of water, possibly even less. But a lot of times when you have some pressure and some clear skies, sunny conditions, you might need to go out into the 20 plus foot depth. Next is the smallmouth. The smallmouth bite started off just hotter than a pistol this year. Opening day, we crushed them. It was fantastic. A lot of big fish, a lot of numbers of fish. Just numbers of big fish. It was fantastic. One of the best openers I've seen. And we caught them on paddle tails, we caught them on jerk baits. The days following that, we kind of went to bed fishing. We still caught some fish on the paddle tails, still caught some fish on the jerk baits, a couple on chatter baits as well. But what we noticed was it just wasn't quite as fast, and the conditions were good for bed fishing, and we were finding a lot of beds. It was hot out, water temps in the bays and certain areas of the lake were in the low to mid 60s. Things were moving very, very fast for the smallmouth. We were almost past the pre-spawn. We were almost all the way into the spawn. I was finding beds out in 9 feet of water on the main lake. So it was moving very quickly. And I was a little bit bummed out, to be honest, because pre-spawn is my favorite time of year. I absolutely love bass fishing the pre-spawn. It's not always easy. You get curveballs in pre-spawn, but some of your best action of the year happens during the pre-spawn, and I just love it. But things have changed dramatically. Like, it's a totally different lake now in the last couple of days. We went from a lot of fish approaching their bedding areas, a lot of fish bedding, a lot of fish locked on beds, to the beds pretty much being abandoned. And that happened very quickly, more so than I even anticipated. I knew it was going to be a big cold front, but some of those fish were awfully locked into those areas. I thought they were gonna stick it out. And it just turned out to be everything the weatherman said. It was a dramatic change in temperature, and the fish did not tolerate it. They abandoned those beds. So for the most part, everything that I could find and everything that I had been fishing is kind of back to square one. So I'm not too bummed out to see that. I'm actually kind of excited. For me, it just means that's going to extend the bedding season, and it definitely advanced us in the smallmouth season. So we're not 2 weeks ahead of schedule anymore. You know, I would say on opening day, I would say we were definitely 2 weeks ahead of schedule. Today, I would say we're almost back on track. So a lot of things changed in the last couple days. In my opinion, I would say for the better, because I just like seeing the spring extended. Now, as far as techniques to use right now, what I would recommend doing is fishing for pre-spawn fish. I would go to the spawning areas, you know, a lot of those spots where they're in 4, 5, 6, 7 feet of water, and just back off to the nearest drop off. Find an edge, find some really, really heavy rocks, wherever you can find the largest feature of rocks in that area that is adjoining the deep water or adjacent to the deep water. That's where I would focus my effort. You can throw little paddle tail swim baits, little 4-inch paddle tails, 3/16 or 1/4 ounce jigs, slow roll them back and make some bottom contact. That's a good way to catch fish in these conditions. But my favorite way to catch fish in these conditions, when it gets darn tough like this, is to throw a jerkbait. A jerkbait simply catches fish when things get tough. You're provoking a reaction bite out of a lot of those fish. If they're feeding, jerkbait will get them. If they're not feeding, sometimes you can get them to react to it. The cool thing with jerkbaits today is if you have live sonar, you can use your sonar to feel the fish out. You can watch them coming and you can react to that fish with the jerkbait. A couple other techniques that are kind of wild cards for this time of year. They're a favorite among some people. They're not my personal favorite, but I know they work and I know they catch fish. Is the hair jig. The hair jig is a great way to catch smallmouth out on Mille Lacs. You can either cast it and just reel it in at a consistent pace, you know, about halfway through the water column. That's what I've found to be the best way to catch fish on a hair jig out here with my personal experience with them. The other way that works really well is if you're having a tough time getting bit and you're not sure where to start, pull out a hair jig, make a long cast out behind your boat, and start trolling about 3/4 to 1 mile an hour with the hair jig. Just cruising that jig all the way across a rock reef, back and forth, zigzagging, going around the tops of the reefs and around the edges. A lot of times what that'll do is that'll get a dummy to bite. A lot of times the dummy in the school will come up and nail that thing, and it'll give away the school. It'll give you a starting point for those smallmouth. So if you're looking to find a school of fish and you don't have the fancy electronics, throwing a hair jig out behind the boat is definitely a great way to find fish out here. And the other one that's kind of a wild card is the Alabama rig or umbrella rig, whatever you want to call it. That has produced fish whenever the water's cold out on Mille Lacs, spring or fall. Just throw a little paddle tail swim bait, get the one with the arms with all the little blades on it. Those definitely work out here. It's a great way to cover water. It definitely catches aggressive fish. So between those two, you can cover a lot of water out here. You'll get aggressive fish. And when you find one, a lot of times you're going to find a lot more with them early in the spring like this. So I hope these tips help you out. Good luck fishing and have a great weekend.